The signal came at 3 in the morning, Earth Standard Time. Lieutenant Amy Torres was halfway through her coffee when her console lit up with patterns she had never seen before. She set down her cup and leaned forward, her eyes scanning the data streams that cascaded across her screen. In her 7 years at Earth Space Command, she had intercepted thousands of transmissions, routine cargo manifests, diplomatic chatter, the occasional entertainment broadcast from alien worlds. This was different. "Sir," she called out, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of the command center. "You need to see this." Admiral Jack Morrison crossed the room in 6 long strides. He was a tall man with gray at his temples and the kind of steady gaze that made younger officers stand a little straighter. He had commanded Earth's 3rd Battle Fleet for 15 years. Through border skirmishes and peacekeeping missions, and every small crisis that came with humanity's awkward first steps into galactic society. "What do we have?" he asked. "Universal distress signal," Amy replied. "Old format. Really old. The kind species use when they want anyone and everyone to hear them." Morrison studied the screen. The signal pulsed in rhythmic bursts, carrying mathematical sequences that served as a common language among spacefaring civilizations. Beneath the code was a message, raw and desperate. "Can you translate it?" Amy's fingers danced across her keyboard. Moments later, the message appeared in plain English on the main display. "This is the Kirithi Collective. Our homeworld is under attack. The Vraxian Dominion has come to destroy us. We have fought for 30 cycles. Our fleets are broken. Our people are dying. We beg any who hear this message to help us. Please. We cannot survive alone." The command center fell silent. Morrison read the message twice. Then he turned to his communications officer. "Where is this coming from?" "Sector 773, Amy answered. "Deep space. Far beyond our explored territories. Approximately 4 days at maximum, faster than light speed." "The Kirithi Collective?" Morrison murmured. He knew the name. A peaceful species. Traders and scientists. They had voted against Earth's admission to the Galactic Assembly 3 years ago, calling humanity too young and too aggressive. But they had never been cruel about it. They simply did not believe Earth was ready. Now they were dying. Morrison activated the priority channel to Earth's Governing Council. Within the hour, he stood before a wall of screens showing the faces of presidents, prime ministers, and military commanders from every major nation. He explained the situation clearly and without emotion. A species was being exterminated. They had called for help. No one else was answering. "Admiral," said the council chairwoman, "the Galactic Assembly has already issued a statement. They recommend non-interference. The Vraxian Dominion is too powerful. Any intervention would be seen as an act of war." "With respect, ma'am, the Vraxians are already at war," Morrison replied. "They are at war with a species that cannot defend itself. If we do nothing, the Kirithi will be wiped out. Every man, woman, and child gone. And if we intervene, we could be next," another council member argued. "Earth is still considered a minor power. We have 12 warships in our entire battle fleet. The Vraxians have hundreds." Morrison nodded slowly. "I understand the risks, but I also understand what it means to be human. We do not look away when innocents are slaughtered. We do not calculate the cost of doing the right thing. We simply do it." The debate lasted 2 more hours. Voices were raised. Warnings were issued. But in the end, the vote was unanimous. Earth would answer the call. Morrison returned to the command center and opened a fleet-wide channel. His words reached every ship, every crew member, every soul under his command. "This is Admiral Morrison. By order of Earth's Governing Council, the 3rd Battle Fleet will deploy to Kirithi space within the hour. We are responding to a distress signal from a species facing extinction. I will not lie to you. The enemy is stronger than us. They have more ships, more weapons, more experience. But they do not have what we have. They do not have the will to fight for strangers. They do not have the courage to stand against evil simply because it is evil. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity truly is. Prepare for departure. Aboard the flagship USS Vanguard, Captain Lisa Grant listened to the Admiral's address from her command chair. She was a compact woman with sharp features and calm brown eyes that missed nothing. She had served under Morrison for 8 years and trusted him completely. "You heard the Admiral," she said to her bridge crew. "Battle stations. Sam, I want tactical scenarios ready before we arrive. Ben, make sure engineering is prepared for anything." Commander Sam Hartley, her tactical officer, was already pulling up star charts of the Karathi system. He was a quiet man who spoke more through his work than his words. Chief Engineer Ben Cooper acknowledged the order from the engineering deck, his voice crackling through the intercom. "Engines are green, Captain. She will get us there." Lisa allowed herself a small smile. The Vanguard was not the newest ship in the fleet, but she was reliable. More importantly, her crew was the best Lisa had ever served with. Within the hour, 12 warships formed up in Earth's orbit. The Vanguard took point, her hull gleaming under the distant sun. Behind her came the destroyers, the frigates, the support vessels. Together, they represented everything humanity had built in its short time among the stars. It was not much, but it was enough to try. Admiral Morrison watched from the Vanguard's bridge as the fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives. The stars stretched into lines of light, and then they were gone, hurtling through the void toward a distant system where a dying species waited for help that might never come. 4 days. That was how long the Karathi had to hold on. Morrison closed his eyes and said a quiet prayer. Not for victory, not for glory, just for the chance to make a difference. When he opened his eyes, the stars were still streaking past, and Earth was already far behind. The signal had been answered. Now came the hard part. The Vanguard dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Karathi system, and Lisa Grant felt her stomach turn at what she saw. Debris everywhere, twisted metal and shattered. Hulls drifted through the void like the bones of dead giants. Some pieces still burned with cold fire, oxygen leaking from torn compartments and igniting in brief, silent flashes. Between the wreckage floated smaller shapes, bodies, hundreds of them. Karathi civilians who had tried to flee and never made it. "My God," whispered Sam Hartley from his tactical station. Lisa gripped the arms of her command chair. She had seen battle before. She had seen death. But this was something else. This was extermination. "All ships, hold position," came Admiral Morrison's voice over the fleet channel. "Sensors, give me a full scan of the system." The reports came in quickly. The Karathi homeworld still existed, a blue-green sphere hanging in the darkness. But its orbital stations were burning. Its defense platforms were silent. A handful of warships limped through the debris field, their hulls scarred and their weapons depleted. And beyond them, fleeing toward the outer planets, were the refugee ships. Thousands of them. Civilian transports packed with survivors, crawling toward safety that did not exist. "Lieutenant Torres," Morrison said, "open a channel to the Karathi fleet. All frequencies." Amy Torres worked a console. "Channel open, sir." Morrison's voice carried across the void. "Karathi vessels, this is Admiral Jack Morrison of Earth's 3rd Battle Fleet. We received your distress signal. We are here to help." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a response came, crackling with static and disbelief. "Earth? You are from Earth?" "Yes," Morrison replied. 12 warships ready to fight. Tell us what you need." Another pause. When the voice returned, it was trembling. We never expected. No one answered. We called for help, and no one answered. The Galactic Assembly told us to surrender. The older species told us our fate was sealed. But you came. You actually came. We came, Morrison confirmed. Now let us help you. The Kirathi directed the human fleet to their command station, a battered orbital platform that had somehow survived the initial assault. Lisa brought the Vanguard alongside, and within the hour, a shuttle carried Admiral Morrison and his senior officers to meet their new allies. The Kirathi were tall beings, slender and graceful, with skin that shifted colors based on their emotions. Ambassador Velith, their senior diplomat, greeted the humans with eyes that flickered between blue and purple. Uncertainty and hope, Lisa realized. That was what those colors meant. Admiral Morrison, Velith said, bowing deeply, I speak for the Kirathi Collective. We are honored by your presence, though we do not understand it. Earth is young. Your species joined the galactic community only recently. Why would you risk your ships and your people for us? Morrison met the ambassador's gaze. Because you asked for help. That is all the reason we need. Velith stared at him for a long moment, as if trying to find a lie hidden in his words. When he found none, his skin shifted to a soft gold. Gratitude. Come, the ambassador said. General Zorath waits in the war room. There is much to discuss and little time. General Zorath was different from Velith. Where the ambassador was graceful and measured, the general was blunt and exhausted. His skin was a dull gray, the color of despair. 12 ships, Zorath said, studying the human officers. You brought 12 ships against the Vraxian Dominion. It is what we have, Morrison replied calmly. The Vraxians have over 50 warships in their invasion fleet. Their command vessel alone is larger than your entire squadron combined. They have conquered dozens of species. They do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They simply destroy. Sam Hartley stepped forward. General, may we see your tactical data from the previous engagements? Zorath waved a hand, and holographic displays filled the room. Battle recordings, fleet movements, weapon signatures. Sam studied them intently, his eyes moving quickly across the data. They are predictable, Sam said quietly. Zorath turned to him. What? The Vraxians. Their tactics. They rely on overwhelming force. They advance in standard formations and simply crush whatever stands before them. They've never faced an enemy who fights differently, because no one has ever survived long enough to fight differently. Zorath replied bitterly. Sam looked at Admiral Morrison. Sir, I think I have an idea. Morrison nodded. Explain. Sam pulled up a tactical display and began outlining his plan. It was unconventional, risky. It involved using the debris fields as cover, luring the Vraxian fleet into a trap, and striking from multiple angles with coordinated precision. It was the kind of asymmetric warfare that humans had perfected over centuries of conflict on their own world. This is insane, Zorath said when Sam finished. You want to hide among the wreckage and attack from concealment. That is not how fleet battles are fought. It is how we fight, Lisa said. General, your people have courage, but you have been fighting the Vraxians using their rules. Let us show you ours. Zorath looked at Velith, then back at the humans. His skin flickered with colors Lisa could not read. We have no other options, the general finally said. If your plan fails, we die. But we were going to die anyway. He extended a clawed hand toward Morrison. Very well, Admiral. We will follow your lead. Morrison clasped the general's hand. Then let us get to work. How long until the Vraxian main fleet arrives? 6 hours, Zorath replied. Perhaps less. 6 hours. Lisa felt the weight of those words settle over her like a cold blanket. 6 hours to prepare a defense against an enemy that had never been defeated. 6 hours to convince a broken fleet that victory was possible. She looked at Admiral Morrison, and she saw no fear in his eyes. Only determination. "Then we have no time to waste," the Admiral said. "Sam, coordinate with General Zorath on fleet positioning. Ben, I need you working with their engineers to integrate our targeting systems. Lisa, you have command of our ships. Keep them ready." "Yes, sir," they replied in unison as the humans spread out to begin their work. Ambassador Veleth approached Morrison one last time. "Admiral," the ambassador said softly, "even if we survive this day, the Vraxian Dominion will not forget. They will come for Earth next." Morrison smiled, and there was something fierce in that smile. "Then they will learn what every enemy of humanity eventually learns," he said. "We do not go quietly, and we never, ever give up." Veleth's skin turned gold again. Hope. For the first time in 30 cycles, the Kirithi had hope. The next 6 hours were the longest of Lisa Grant's life. She stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, watching the tactical display as human and Kirithi ships moved into position throughout the system. The debris field from previous battles had become their shield. A maze of twisted metal and shattered hulls where a smaller fleet could hide from sensors. "Captain," Sam Hartley reported, "the destroyers Falcon and Horizon are in position behind the third moon. The frigates are spread along the asteroid belt as planned." "Good," Lisa replied. "What about the Kirithi ships?" "General Zorath has placed them at the front, as we discussed. They will draw the Vraxians in while we remain hidden." It was a dangerous role. The Kirithi would take the first wave of enemy fire, but it was necessary. The Vraxians needed to believe they were facing a broken, desperate enemy with no tricks left to play down in the engineering section. Chief Engineer Ben Cooper was covered in grease and alien lubricant. He had spent the past 4 hours working alongside Kirithi technicians, adapting human targeting software to work with alien weapon systems. "Try it now." He called out to a Kirithi engineer named Threx. Threx activated the modified targeting array. The display flickered, then stabilized. Target locks appeared across the screen, faster and more precise than anything the Kirithi had used before. Threx's skin turned bright yellow. Amazement. "How did you do this?" Threx asked. "Our systems have always been slower. Our engineers have tried for generations to improve them." Ben wiped his hands on a rag. "A different approach, that is all. Human computers process information in parallel rather than sequence. We jury-rigged your arrays to do the same thing." "Jury-rigged?" "Made it work with whatever we had lying around," Ben explained with a grin. "It is kind of our specialty." Threx studied the human engineer with new respect. "Your people are strange, Ben Cooper, but I am glad you are here." "Me too," Ben said. "Now let us make sure these weapons are ready. We are going to need every shot to count." Aboard the Kirithi command station, Admiral Morrison stood before a holographic map of the system. Around him gathered the captains of his fleet, their faces grim but focused. General Zorath and Ambassador Veleth were there as well, along with a new figure. Elder Sin was the leader of the Kirithi Council, an ancient being whose skin had faded to a pale silver with age. He moved slowly, supported by a carved staff, but his eyes were sharp and clear. "Admiral Morrison," the elder said, his voice soft but steady. "I wish to meet the human who answered our call." Morrison bowed his head respectfully. "Elder Sin, it is an honor." "The honor is mine," Sin replied. "In my long life, I have seen many things. The rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of stars. But I have never seen a young species do what your people have done today." "We only did what was right," Morrison said simply. Sin studied him for a long moment. That is what makes it remarkable, Admiral. In this galaxy, doing what is right is rare. Most species calculate the cost before acting. They weigh their own survival against the suffering of others, and they choose themselves every time. Humans are not so different, Morrison admitted. We have made selfish choices too. We have failed to help when we should have. But we are trying to be better. We are trying to be the kind of species that others can count on. The elder's skin shifted to a warm amber. Admiration. Then perhaps, Sin said quietly, the galaxy has needed humanity all along. Perhaps that is why you were given the stars. Before Morrison could respond, Lieutenant Torres's voice crackled through the intercom. Admiral, we are detecting faster-than-light signatures at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts. Very large. The room fell silent. Morrison looked at the tactical display as red dots began to appear. 1, 10, 20, 50. The Vraxian Dominion had arrived. All ships, battle stations, Morrison ordered calmly. This is what we prepared for. Everyone knows their role. Trust the plan. Trust each other. On the Vanguard's bridge, Lisa watched the enemy fleet emerge from faster-than-light travel. The Vraxian warships were massive, their hulls covered in weapon emplacements and armor plating. At the center of the formation was their command ship, a behemoth that dwarfed everything else in the system. 53 contacts confirmed, Sam reported. Plus fighter squadrons. Plus support vessels. Total enemy strength is approximately 4 times our combined forces. Lisa nodded slowly. She had expected worse. Steady, she said to her bridge crew. We wait for the Admiral's signal. The Vraxian fleet advanced toward the Kirethi homeworld without caution. They moved in perfect formation, confident in their overwhelming strength. A transmission blared across all frequencies, harsh and cold. This is Supreme Commander Krath of the Vraxian Dominion. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and you will suffer. There is no other choice. General Zorath looked at Admiral Morrison. Do we respond? Morrison shook his head. Let them think we are afraid. Let them think we are broken. They will learn the truth soon enough. The Kirethi fleet began a slow retreat toward the debris field, exactly as planned. The Vraxians pursued, their formation spreading out as individual ships raced to claim the glory of the first kill. They are taking the bait. Sam said quietly aboard the Vanguard. Lisa watched the enemy ships enter the debris field, their sensors struggling to track targets among the wreckage. The Vraxians had never fought in conditions like this. They were used to open space where their superior numbers could crush any opposition. Not today. Admiral, Lisa said into her communicator. The enemy is in position. Morrison's voice came back steady and sure. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Remember why we are here. Remember who we are fighting for. These people called for help, and we answered. Now let us show the Vraxians what happens when they threaten our friends. Lisa gripped the arms of her command chair. All hands, she said. Prepare for combat. The trap was set. Now it was time to spring it. The first missiles launched from the darkness like silent predators. The Vraxian destroyer at the edge of their formation had no warning. One moment, it was pursuing a damaged Kirethi vessel. The next, a dozen warheads slammed into its flank, tearing through armor and detonating deep within its hull. The ship broke apart in a shower of flame and debris. Contact! Screamed a Vraxian officer. We are under attack. But they could not see where the attack came from. The debris field swallowed their sensors. The wreckage of their previous victims had become a weapon against them. The USS Vanguard burst from behind a shattered space station, her weapons blazing. Lisa Grant stood at the center of her bridge, calm despite the chaos erupting around her. Target the lead cruiser, she ordered. Sam, coordinate with the Falcon and Horizon. Flanking pattern Delta. Aye, Captain, Sam replied, his fingers dancing across his console. The human ships moved like wolves among sheep. They struck from unexpected angles, fired their weapons, and vanished back into the debris before the Vraxians could return fire. It was nothing like the fleet battles the Dominion had fought before. There were no neat formations, no predictable maneuvers. Just sudden violence followed by silence. Supreme Commander Krath watched the chaos unfold from his command ship with growing fury. His fleet was scattered. His captains were panicking. And somewhere in that debris field, a handful of primitive human vessels were making fools of them all. Find them! Krath roared. Find them and destroy them. But finding them was not easy. The humans had studied Vraxian tactics carefully. They knew exactly how enemy sensors worked and exactly how to avoid them. Every time the Vraxians thought they had a lock on a human ship, it would slip away into the wreckage, and then strike again from somewhere else. Aboard the Vanguard, Chief Engineer Ben Cooper was earning his pay. The ship shuddered under enemy fire as he rerouted power from damaged systems to critical ones. Shields down to 40%, he reported. I can give you more power to weapons or engines, Captain. Not both. Weapons? Lisa decided instantly. We need to hit harder. You got it. The Vanguard's guns roared with renewed fury, punching holes through a Vraxian frigate that had strayed too close. The enemy ship spun away, venting atmosphere and bodies into the void. Across the battlefield, the Kirathi were fighting with strength they did not know they had. General Zorath led his remaining warships in a desperate counterattack, inspired by the human example. Where before his people had fought defensively, waiting to die, now they charged forward with something like hope. From Kirathi Prime, Zorath shouted over the fleet channel. For our children, for our future. His flagship rammed straight into a Vraxian destroyer, weapons firing at point-blank range. Both ships were torn apart by the collision, but Zorath's crew had already evacuated. The general himself was aboard a shuttle, racing toward another Kirathi vessel to continue the fight. Admiral Morrison coordinated the battle from the Vanguard's secondary command center. He watched the tactical display, issuing orders with calm precision. Falcon, break left. Enemy, cruiser on your tail. Horizon, cover them. Kirathi Group 3, push forward. We need to keep them off balance. It was working. Somehow, impossibly, it was working. The Vraxian fleet was in disarray. Ships collided with debris. Captains issued contradictory orders. The overwhelming force that should have crushed the defenders was instead being torn apart piece by piece. But it was not enough. Supreme Commander Krath had seen enough. He ordered his command ship to advance directly toward the heart of the battle. The massive vessel pushed through the debris field like a mountain moving through clouds. Nothing could stop it. Nothing could even slow it down. Admiral, Lisa said urgently, the Vraxian command ship is heading straight for the Kirathi homeworld. If it gets through, it can bombard the surface directly. Morrison studied the display. The enemy flagship was too large, too powerful. Their weapons could barely scratch its armor. Then we do not let it get through, he said quietly. Lisa, take us in. Sir? You heard me. Attack the command ship. All weapons. Everything we have. Lisa did not hesitate. You heard the Admiral. Helm, set intercept course. All hands, prepare for close combat. The Vanguard surged forward, joined by the destroyers Falcon and Horizon. The three human ships raced toward the Vraxian, behemoth-like insects attacking a giant. Supreme Commander Krath watched them come and laughed. Pathetic, he sneered. Destroy them. The command ship opened fire with hundreds of weapon batteries. Space lit up with energy beams and projectiles. The Falcon took a direct hit and spun away, crippled but still fighting. The horizon lost its forward section entirely, but the vanguard kept coming. "Shields gone," Ben reported, his voice strained. "Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Weapons at 50%. Target their bridge," Lisa ordered. "Everything we have, now." The vanguard fired every remaining missile, every functional cannon, every weapon that still worked. The barrage hammered into the command ship's upper section, where sensors showed the bridge was located. At the same time, the surviving Kirithi ships attacked from below. Their modified targeting systems, improved by Ben Cooper's work, allowed them to strike weak points that their old technology would have missed. The command ship shuddered. Then it shuddered again. Explosions rippled across its hull. On the bridge, Supreme Commander Krath felt his ship dying around him. Alarms screamed. Officers shouted damage reports. And through the viewport, he could see the battered human vessels still firing, still fighting, refusing to stop. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." A final volley from the vanguard struck the command ship's reactor core. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface. A second sun blooming, briefly in the darkness of space. The Vraxian command ship was gone, and with it went the enemy's leadership, their coordination, their will to fight. The remaining Vraxian vessels broke formation and fled toward the edge of the system, pursued by human and Kirithi ships until they vanished into faster-than-light travel. On the Vanguard's bridge, Lisa slumped in her chair. The ship was barely holding together. Half her crew was wounded, but they had done it. They had won. Admiral Morrison's voice came over the intercom, tired but triumphant. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. The enemy is in retreat. Kirithi Prime is secure." He paused, and when he spoke again, there was pride in his words. "Well done. Every single one of you. Well done." Outside the viewport, the Kirithi homeworld turned slowly beneath the stars. It was still there, because Earth had answered the call. The celebrations on Kirithi Prime lasted for 7 days. In the streets of every city, millions gathered to sing and dance and weep with joy. Families who had prepared to die embraced each other in disbelief. Children who would never have grown up now played beneath stars that no longer promised destruction. And everywhere, on every screen and every broadcast, the people of Kirithi watched recordings of the battle. They watched human ships emerge from the debris field like avenging spirits. They watched the Vanguard charge the enemy command ship. They watched the impossible become possible. Aboard the orbital station that had served as their headquarters, Admiral Jack Morrison stood at a viewport and looked down at the planet he had helped save. The scars of war were still visible. Burning wreckage still orbited overhead. But the homeworld remained. The people survived. That was enough. "Admiral," Ambassador Vela said, approaching with Elder Sin at his side, "the Council has asked me to convey our eternal gratitude. What your people have done, there are no words sufficient to express what it means to us." Morrison turned to face them. He looked tired. The battle had cost him 3 ships and nearly 100 crew members. But he stood tall, accepting the weight of command. "We did what anyone should have done," he said simply. "Your people were in danger. We helped." Elder Sin's skin shimmered with colors that Morrison had learned to recognize as deep emotion. Gold for gratitude, blue for sorrow, silver for wonder. "Admiral, I have lived for over 300 cycles," the elder said quietly. "I have seen the rise and fall of empires. I have watched species reach for the stars and then fade into dust. In all that time, I have never seen anything like what your people did today." "We are not special," Morrison replied. "We just could not look away." "That is exactly what makes you special," Sin said. "The galaxy is old, Admiral. Old and tired and cynical. Most species have learned to protect themselves and nothing more. They have forgotten that we are all connected, that when one civilization falls, we all become a little smaller. The elder placed a frail hand on Morrison's arm. Humanity has reminded us of something we had forgotten. That courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite fear. Your species is young, but you carry something precious. A fire that burns even in the darkest night. Morrison did not know how to respond. He simply nodded and hoped that was enough. Later that day, a transmission was sent to the Galactic Assembly. Elder Sin addressed the gathered representatives of 100 worlds, his image projected across the stars. Members of the Assembly, Sin began. 30 cycles ago, my people called for help. We sent our distress signal to every civilization with ears to hear it. We begged for aid against the Vraxian Dominion. He paused, letting the silence stretch. You refused. The ancient powers, the great empires, the species who claimed to be the guardians of galactic civilization, you all refused. You told us to surrender. You calculated the odds and decided we were not worth saving. Murmurs rippled through the assembly chamber. But one species answered. Sin continued. Humanity. A young race. A minor power. They had 12 ships against the Vraxian armada. By every calculation, they should have been destroyed. But they came anyway. And against all odds, they won. The elder's voice grew stronger. I am here to announce that the Kirathi Collective will stand as Earth's eternal ally. We will share our technology, our resources, our knowledge. And I call upon every member of this assembly to reconsider their judgment of humanity. He stared directly into the camera, as if meeting the eyes of every being watching across the galaxy. They are not primitive. They are not reckless. They are what we have all forgotten how to be. They are heroes. The transmission ended, but its effects would ripple outward for years to come. Back on the Vanguard, Captain Lisa Grant supervised the repairs to her wounded ship. The vessel had barely survived the battle. Entire sections were open to space. Dozens of systems were offline. But she was still flying, and that was what mattered. Captain, Chief Engineer Ben Cooper reported, emerging from a maintenance hatch covered in soot and smiling despite his exhaustion. Good news. The main reactor is stable. We will make it home. Good work, Ben, Lisa said. I knew you would figure it out. Honestly, Captain, I was not sure myself. But I figured if we came all this way, it would be a shame to die on the trip back. Lisa laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in days, and it felt good. Commander Sam Hartley approached with a datapad in his hand. His expression was thoughtful. Captain, I have been analyzing the Vraxian retreat patterns. They fled toward their home territory, but their fleet is badly damaged. They will not be able to mount another offensive for months, maybe years. That gives us time to prepare, Lisa said. Yes, but there is something else. Sam hesitated. The Vraxian Dominion has never been defeated before, ever, what we did today. It will not be forgotten. They will come for Earth eventually. Lisa nodded slowly. She had expected as much. Then we will be ready, she said. And we will not be alone. She looked out the viewport at the Kirathi ships flying alongside the Vanguard. All eyes now. Friends, a bond forged in fire that would never be broken. 1 month later, Admiral Morrison stood in the Grand Hall of Earth's Council, receiving the highest honors his world could bestow. But he did not feel like a hero. He felt like a man who had done his duty and lost good people along the way. After the ceremony, he stepped outside and looked up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, among the countless stars, the Vraxian Dominion was planning its revenge. Somewhere out there, other species were learning about what humanity had done. Some would admire them. Others would fear them. But Earth had made its choice. It had chosen to stand for something greater than survival. It had chosen to help those who could not help themselves, and as Morrison watched, a shuttle descended from orbit. Its hull bore markings he did not recognize. An alien delegation, he realized. One of many that had been arriving since the news of the battle spread. They were coming to Earth, coming to meet the species that answered. When no one else would, the galaxy was watching now, and humanity was ready.